Hi there, welcome to the Carpenter's Desk. If you appreciate the work that we are doing, please do subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and please share it with your friends. Since early May, the northeastern state of Manipur has been inundated with violent clashes between the majority Meiti community and the Kuki hill tribe. The images and news reports coming from the region are heart-wrenching and disturbing. Conservative official estimates assume that at least over 100 people have died and thousands have been forced to flee their homes. The anarchy and disorder in Manipur are possibly unprecedented in India's recent history. Indeed, we have previously experienced violent riots and turmoils, but rarely have we witnessed something similar. As Manipur burns for over 2 months, a state and central machinery seems to be mere spectators of the unfolding horror. Prima facie, it seems to be an ethnic skirmish, and to understand the long-standing hostilities between these tribes, a closer analysis of their history is required. The aim of this video is not to specifically analyze the complex history and intricate social problems that have been primarily led to the current escalation. There are media outlets, especially independent media, that continue to report and analyze issues in a detailed, unbiased manner. So what caused an unrest of this scale and magnitude? The immediate triggers can be tracked primarily to two major developments. Firstly, the Manipur government's suspension of operation agreements with two tribal militant groups. And secondly, the March 27th order of the Manipur High Court for inclusion of the majority ethnic group, the Meitis. Various allegations of illegal immigration, poppy cultivation, etc. have been leveled against the Kukis by the state government. There has been a deliberate attempt by the state government and the right-wing commentaries to focus the whole issue as a retaliation to the government's stringent action taken against these issues. However, the Honorable Home Minister made a categorical statement in Guwahati on May 26. He says, and I quote, "The clashes in Manipur were because of a court judgment. We have to find a way forward through dialogue and peace. Injustice should not be done to anyone. This is the policy of the Modi government." So this is now self-explanatory, right? Before we move forward, let me press on the fact that what is happening in Manipur is not a communal clash between Hindus and Christians. It is primarily an ethnic tension which has now escalated to a large-scale brutality and bloodshed. However, what primarily seems to be an ethnic tension has also, unfortunately, has an hidden communal face, as one cannot overlook the apparently orchestrated targeted attacks against Christians and churches. Various narratives are already in the news. So on one side we have some of the liberal media houses who are outright denying the slightest suggestion of a communal angle, and on the other side we have the extreme right-wing mouthpieces and YouTubers who are utilizing the opportunity to the fullest and spewing the venom of hatred and fear amongst different religious communities. Before we go any further, let me mention that regardless of religious identity, whether it be a Hindu or a Christian, Kuki or a Meiti, Manipuris are suffering, Indians are suffering. So on close introspection, it's not all black and white. Anti-Christian forces have and are communalizing the ethnic tensions and using the opportunity to unleash violence against Christians. They are using this opportunity to further this narrative that has been around for a few years, that the majority is under threat, or as they say, Hindu khatre mein hai. Labeling and otherizing the predominantly Kuki community as illegal migrants working for some interest of some anti-national external Christian missionaries, it fits perfectly well with the Hindutva agenda. The Kukis are Christians and were converted roughly a century ago by Christian missionaries, and hence the right-wing narrative seeks to shift the blame on Christian missionaries, churches and institutions. However, studying history can serve as an antidote to naive assumptions that's often left unquestioned that Hinduism is the traditional original religion of the land, and Christianity and other religions are intruders seeking to destroy peace and communal harmony of the nation. Such a notion, despite its popularity, is an pseudo-historical myth peddled by the Hindu right wing. No, Hinduism is not the original religion of the land. You see, the Meitis were not Hindus from the beginning. They followed a religion called as Sanamahism. In the early 18th century, Shantidas Gosai, a Hindu missionary, came to Manipur and converted King Garib Nawaz to Hinduism, more precisely Vaishnavism. There were some traces of the presence of Hinduism a little later too, but it was not much prominent. Later during his reign, King Garib Nawaz made Hinduism the official religion and converted nearly all Meiti people to Hinduism. And of late there has been some revival of the Sanamahism faith, and some Meitis have begun to garwapsi to their ancestral religion. Now, apart from these, there are also Meiti Muslims. So in short, Hinduism in Manipur is also a foreign religion. That said, Christianity came to Manipur in the 19th century with the arrival of William Pettigrew, an Anglican-turned-Baptist missionary. Christianity grew at an alarming rate throughout the early 20th century in the region and continues to grow. And although the Meitis are predominantly Hindus, some of them have begun to leave Hinduism and convert to Christianity or Sanamahism. We have already done a video on religious conversions and why it's a basic democratic right to propagate, preach and practice the religion of your choice. So the link to the video and some of our related articles are in the descriptions. You can very well check them out. We will not continue on those lines in this video. As I mentioned, judging the Manipur issue as purely a case of Christian persecution is misleading. However, the communalization of the clashes cannot be undermined. When the tensions began in early May, within 36 hours, hundreds of churches were burned down. Now, interestingly, these were not only Kuki churches, there were also Meiti churches. According to Dominic Lemon, the Archbishop of Imphal, roughly 249 churches belonging to the Meitis were burned down. He claims, and I quote, "The wonder is in the midst of the fight between Kukis and Meitis, why did the Meiti mob burn down and destroy 249 churches located in the Meiti heartland? How is it that there was almost a natural attack on the churches in the Meiti localities itself, and how did the mob know where the churches were located if it was not previously planned?" Now, there is another interesting detail, that many of these churches that were attacked were not even proper church buildings. They were house churches gathering in local houses. So it's clear that the attackers were armed with precise information and they acted in a very well planned and targeted manner. In a recent article in the Telegraph published on 25th of June, Father Walter Fernandez, who is the director of the Northeastern Social Research Center, Guwahati, listed 3 distinguishing features on the nature of the attacks. Firstly, the Nagas and Kukis joined hands to oppose the move on tribal status for the Meitis. The Kukis were singled out for the attacks. Attempts seem to have been made to provoke the Nagas and turn it into a Naga-Kuki conflict, but they failed. Secondly, for the first time, religious places were attacked in order to give the conflict a communal turn. And thirdly, eyewitness accounts state that gangs of men came on motorbikes from Imphal to places around 50 kilometers away to attack churches. Who gave them the money? Isn't this funded in some way? One would be justified in concluding from these events that the conflict was well planned, funded, executed with precision by people in power. In most cases, the security forces remained mute spectators. A recent report from the Christian Post stated that a local Christian leader who neither identifies as a Meiti or Kuki, he says that Christians are being pressurized to renounce their faith and convert to Hinduism. He shared an incident where a Hindu Meiti mob prevented a Christian family from burying a deceased member until they converted to Hinduism. So despite the fact that the clashes began on ethnic grounds, it has evolved to much more than that and has been clearly weaponized by external forces to persecute Christians. And these forces have been successful. Now, more often than not, we have noticed previously too that when such persecution happened, the Hindu right wing is quick to shift the blame on the oppressed. We have seen similar instances in Kandhamal in Orissa, one of the bloodiest instances of Christian persecution in independent India. In the light of the recent events, the RSS mouthpiece or organizer published an article on 16th of May blaming the churches for the violence. A legit question would be, who is the RSS trying to protect here? The common theme in such allegations are, away with the Christians, they have come to destroy our peace and harmony. However, such blaming isn't new in the history of Christian persecution. In AD 64, the mentally unstable Roman Emperor Nero blamed the Christians for a great fire that destroyed the entire Rome. According to the Roman historian Tacitus, Nero himself may have been responsible for starting the fire. In 410 AD, Rome was captured by Alaric, the Gothic king. The Romans leveled unjustified allegations against Christians, holding them responsible for the disaster that had come upon Rome. The great Saint Augustine responded to these accusations in his famous work, The City of God. In India too, during the 2008 Kandhamal violence, 84-year-old Swami Lakshmananand Saraswati was brutally killed by the Maoists. However, the right wing blamed the Christians for the murder and stirred the Hindutva mob against helpless village churches and Christians. The zeal with which the right wing is deliberately trying to shift the blame hints of their ulterior motives. Meiti militant groups such as Arambai Tengor and Meiti Lipan has reportedly hired bulldozers to pull down Meiti churches as they considered Christianity as a threat to indigenous Meiti culture. They have also looted arms from the police armory. On whose behalf have these organizations acted? Who gave them the power to do so? These are questions that needs to be answered. It's been 60 plus days since the mob rampaging began. Neither the center nor the state machinery seems to have worked out a solution. The way that the whole episode has been handled by the people in power invites genuine suspicion. So who should be blamed here? Well, the observer can decide. Face the truth. Anti-Christian forces mileage the current unrest to peddle hate crimes against Christians. They have demolished churches of both the Kukis and Meitis. So to completely rule out any communal angle is bogus. Quinn reported a story of a father whose 7-year-old son was mercilessly burned to death. You and I cannot for a moment fathom the pain and misery that the father is going through. However, the father still chooses to make a statement about holding no grudge and forgiving his son's killer and asking them to do away with violence. Mr. Nikethu Iralu is a prominent leader in the Nagaland and he has been instrumental in resorting peace in riot-stricken villages in Nagaland. Listen to him for a moment as he provides some insights into how peace can be brought about. This is from the interview he gave to Karan Thapar for The Wire.
As I said, go to those people you have hurt or done wrong to and actually start the process of talking it and say, for this, we are wrong, not you, we are sorry. And instead of just blaming them for what they have done. But you see, we in my village of Konoma, we found that at the end of at the worst part of the Naga struggle, most violent years, we found that our village had lost all its spirit. And the elders who always guided the village and guided them very well in the past centuries, we found that they had no more authority. The young people did not listen to them. And a number of us, 21 of us representing 3 clans, were asked to look into it and do whatever is necessary to restore the health of our village relationships. We identified that the 22 killings that had taken place in our village, where our village had killed one another, clans had killed one another. And we found that unless we touched that, we were going to go down further, because our forest was being damaged by young people who did not care at all to preserve our virgin forest, very beautiful forest. And long story, but we resulted in getting all the killings processed in the sense that our commission got those who have done the killing or their family members who are no longer alive. They went to the other side, those who had suffered because of them, asked for the apology, to forgive them. Before that, our commission members prepared both sides. Both sides, those who had done the wrong thing, say we are afraid to do it, but unless we do it, we are destroying ourselves. And those who had suffered said, if they will come, we will, for the sake of our children. Our children, our future generation are becoming hopeless. You see, in this case, each one, they said, we were the ones who killed your people. Very specific. And we do not know what to say, but our village is being destroyed because of killings like this. We ask you to forgive us and ask heaven to bless us. If you ask heaven to bless us, then it is complete.
We ask you to forgive us and ask heaven to bless us. If you ask heaven to bless us, then it is complete. That is a deeply Christian message. After Jesus' betrayal by Judas, a group of soldiers moved in to arrest the Lord. In a rash attempt to protect Jesus, Peter pulled out his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Jesus instantly rebuked Peter and said, all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Peter, decades later, writes in his own epistle about his master. In 1 Peter 2 verse 23 we read, when they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. In Churachandpur, when some Kuki men were planning to attack the Meitis, Kuki women formed a human chain to prevent these attacks. In neighboring Moirang, Meiti parents and students stood near the gate of a Jesuit school to prevent attacks on it by armed group. And many such instances do provide us hope for reconciliation. Although human systems and state machineries fail us, we must seek to work alongside our governments and other social organizations to build a better society. And as human beings who strive to build heaven on earth, a society devoid of evil, injustice and suffering, we must not forget that merely on humanistic foundations, such undertakings are bound to fail, simply because these are promises Christ has made to men, and without Him and His principles of forgiveness and reconciliation, our vision cannot be actualized.